I want attacking purposeful football all the time. Now we're going to have backs against the wall and we're going to fight, and we're going to fight hard. You've got to show me all the guts and all the determination you've got in your body. You've got to inspire me.
A marvellous kick. That's as good as you'll ever see. And Footscray are back in front. From inside the centre square. Boys kick the goal. Boys kick the goal. From inside the centre.
Hey Pack, welcome to Danny Boyd. It's a podcast about your favourite, my favourite, everyone's favourite football club in the known universe and all multiverses. That is the Footscray Football Club, Proprietary Limited, trading as Western Bulldogs. I'm Danny McGinlay. He is back from whatever dodgy dealings he was doing in Indonesia. He escaped getting caught by the authorities. And I'm glad to say he is shacked up in his mansion in Albert Park. Tom Boyd, welcome back. We have missed you, my friend. Although, I have to tell you, as lovely as the Boyd mansion is, after recording last week in Rocket Eads' condo, your house does look not as good.
Well, I first and foremost appreciate being back. The only thing that I escaped in terms of the authorities over in Bali was that I refrained my wife from buying too much knockoff junk, which was really, really good. However,
I want to compliment your genuine Romex watch. I mean, they're rare. They don't make Romexes anymore.
Oh, mate. With I fought the fight on Crocs, and I'm sad to say I lost. My daughter has two pairs, one of which I bought her. Wow. So, you know.
Why do people want Crocs? Aren't they just, I've never worn Crocs, but they just look like that type of plastic that really chafe.
Yeah, I think it's a bit softer than perhaps that it looks.
Okay.
Admittedly, it should be a matter of law that someone with size 15 shoes should not legally be allowed to wear them. That should be.
Is that you?
Potentially capital punishment. Yes, it's me. I should never be able to wear Crocs of any colour for that matter, but particularly not like white if I'm trying to look like a clown.
Do you know what my wife brings it? My wife of Ukrainian heritage, she doesn't do many. Now, there's a better term for this, but I think you'll understand, and I use this with love because she is my favourite human. She doesn't do too many woggy things, but one of the woggiest things she does is she wears those masseurs, and she orders them in from Europe. Do you remember? You might be too young to remember masseurs. They were like the go-to footwear of all European parents in the 80s and 90s. They've got like little spikes and they massage your feet as you walk.
Right. No, I haven't seen them, but I sort of put them in the basket just mentally right at this moment as those very tacky moccasins that only cover half your feet that really shouldn't be worn anywhere outside.
Yeah.
And yet seem to make it from, you know, just being an inside piece of footwear to the edge of the driveway to the shops to like the footy over 20 years. They never get updated. They never get updated.
Yeah, so. What is the rule with, I think shops are now part of your house. I will not judge anyone for what they wear down to the plaza. Whereas, footy, you got to, trackies at the footy's a bit drug dealerish for me. Yeah.
Well, for instance, I will judge the absolute shit out of you if you wear really bad clothes at the shopping centre because I don't have a plaza. I grew up in the very suburban, right next to Eastland shopping centre,
okay.
where if you were wearing what was the big thing back in the day, the Trigger trackies, right?
Trigger. What is that? The rip-off ones?
The brand, no.
I think
they were, but they were like really puffy. Usually white with pink writing in like a graffiti style saying Trigger down the side.
Okay.
And it was 100% great indicator of poor future life circumstances.
That's very eloquent, Mr. Boyd.
Before they renovated Eastland and turned it into the palace that it is today, 90% of it was an absolute hellhole. And in particular, the worst of the worst was the section that was sort of up the top of the hill there for those of you who've been there. And there was a short walk between where the old town hall and the library used to be, which is right next to the station, and where the shopping centre ended. And there was a street that ran through it. And on that street was a store which I think still exists, called Off Your Tree.
Oh, yeah. There's heaps of those
And
around.
it was like a magnet for trigger trackies, morons, and everyone else who was smoking and underage.
Interesting, because the Off Your Tree I'm a Northland guy, by the way. It was on the weekend, of course, a machete attack. And I've got to say, as someone who grew up around there in the 90s, felt nostalgic. But Off Your Tree was more your grunge. Your grungy kids were going there. Your ferals doing your own dreadlocks. Your dazed and confused crowd, whereas the tracky guys were more your Mediterranean people who. Where did they hang out? I don't know. Metro underage.
It was the other part about that whole segment of the shopping centre at Eastland was that as you cross the road from the station to the town hall area that I described before, that road, Maroondah Highway, was populated with all of the great nightclubs of Ringwood, which was
nice.
Dakota, Orange Whip, Zoo Bar, all of which I can say that I have never been to except for Dakota. And at Dakota, I have never had a single drink in. So go me.
Are they still there?
Dakota burnt down in a very suspicious fire incident a few years ago, but it's been rebuilt into quite a nice. So anyway, we've gotten off track.
Yeah, sorry,
again.
everyone. We haven't seen each other in a month.
That's true. And also, I will say that whilst perhaps not in stature figuratively, it's kind of like if you put Steve-O on Rocket's shoulders. I have directly replaced that combination of people.
Yeah, a footy brain with a tenacious political curiosity.
Well, I would say that every time I see Steve-O, he gets significantly shorter than I recall, as good of a man as he is. And he also becomes more punk rock every time that I see him.
Okay.
With his haircut getting slightly curlier and longer, but the sides getting slightly shorter and more grungy. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you this about Steve-O last week. He was. It was very nice of him to come onto the pod because he was really busy. Steve-O, of course, now works for the National Party, and that was the day they'd just broken up with the Liberals. So he had a very busy day, and I think he was actually quite happy to talk about anything but that and have an hour of Bulldogs chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, what a fun world it must be working in politics. Honestly, there's actually a couple of footy people who've ended up in that space. The old comms, head of comms or whatever they're called at the Giants ended up working for the Liberal Party before Steve-O, I think.
Okay. Justin Madden, of course.
Oh, yeah, well, we've made it to the bye.
Yes.
I've been talking,
all right, 7.5 minutes in. Let's talk footy.
Lots has happened. I was actually on a plane for the game against Geelong, so I walked back in not only to see a very high-scoring affair, but 13 goals kicked between two forwards or whatever it was from Geelong, which wasn't an ideal thing for me.
13 goals straight. Let's just put that in.
Yeah,
it was,
and a bloke who's done a number on us quite a few times in the regular season.
Is this Jeremy Cameron?
Yeah. Regular season.
So yeah, Cameron kicked 6 straight. Neil kicked 5 straight.
11, yeah.
So I'll just say this. This is my review of the game. Like, we've had an unlucky year. Yeah, the Dogs, like, everything's gone against us. Cody Waitman grows another kneecap. Jamari Ugle-Hagan disappears. Treloar out. Bont out. It's just everything has gone against us. And never has that more been true than this game. Like, I mean, the fact that they kick 11 straight and we hit the post 5 times is just, and we still only lose by 2 goals. The free kick count was 26-12. Just everything went their way and everything went against us. And I think it's actually a perfect summation of the season in that we lose in the most frustrating circumstances. And yet I finished that night. I was annoyed, but ultimately optimistic.
Yeah, and we are at a point in time where we've got sort of, at least 4 games this year where that exact feeling has been the one that's been shared amongst fans.
Yes.
Right? Because to walk into the bye at 6-5 is one, I always say this, ahead of the ledger at the bye, absolute number one most important thing. You need to be in the positive win column versus a loss column. However, would have looked a lot better at 7-4.
Oh, yes.
You know, a lot better. And of those 4 games that we think back to, Collingwood obviously ruined a great night, 100-year anniversary, as well as the shocking decisions made late in the game, which, by the way, I don't know if it is true that the umpiring has been worse than ever, because I haven't watched enough footy. But it certainly seems like there is a broad confusion or mismatch in what fans, clubs, the AFL, and the umpires expect the game to be umpired like.
Tom Boyd, I am so happy to hear you say that, because not only do I agree with you, but second of all, like, one of the mission statements of this podcast is you teach me how the football world actually works. But at the same time, I teach you how to become a Nuffy fan. And the fact that you even acknowledge that the umpires might have been a bit wrong there, that's like when you're loading a program and it's stuck at 0% for so long, and then you see it go up to 1%, and you just know that minuscule progress is happening. Yes, Tom Boyd, the umpires have been screwing us, and I'm glad you noticed.
Well, honestly, I am certain that I would have been far more than 1% loaded if I'd actually seen the game. But unfortunately, I was at whatever 26,000 feet or whatever the sort of semi-international flights.
I'm talking over the whole season.
Yes, there's been a few occasions for sure. But my point overall is twofold. One, we find ourselves in the position we want to be at the bye. Yes, not quite as good of a position as we would have hoped for. However, the season is 100% in our own control moving forward, which is exactly what we would want. We have some great players to return back to the fold. None other than the one S. Darcy should be back in the mix the next 2 weeks post-bye, I'm told, or
Are
I
you?
see.
Hang on, let me just look up the injury report.
Trained pain-free last week.
Oh.
And did a skills session. Unlikely to be rushed back post the bye for the Hawthorn game. More likely to play in the subsequent week was what I have read.
Okay. So not told. It's not like you and Doc Zimmerman are hanging out and having a chat about things. This is you're just getting the same thing as us.
Look, if me and Doc Zimmerman hung out, we would end up talking about remarkable situations with the Bulldogs, probably from 1992.
It sounds good. See, what a great podcast episode that'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We go to we'll book in. Maybe what we do is we pretend to be like conjoined twins or something. We go in and we say, we need to have a consultation, and then we have an interview. Like just to get in.
I love this.
We got to spin it into a sport. So maybe we're like the 3-legged race twins, right? And we've got a sporting injury. And so we're going to come in and see Doc Zimmerman at his consultation.
We get someone to pretend to be someone from the IOC, and they're going to make a 3-legged race an Olympic sport. And then we go in and we go, give us a physical. We need to know how to do it.
Gaz has definitely done some of the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken.
There we go. And it's a weird conjoined twin thing we've got where I'm 13 years older than you. That was awkward for my whole childhood, but
yeah. Well, let's not get into the detail, but I think from just a face value, like any doctor is going to want to be interested in a case as obscure as that.
That's true. Sam Darcy, 4 weeks, according to the official Bulldogs website.
Yes, which, that's exactly essentially what I said, right? We got 1 week to the bye, 1 week to the game after that. 3 weeks will be the St Kilda game, if not the week after that. And look, lots of it will depend upon, let me just put a small amount of prediction into here, is that if we win particularly convincingly against the Hawks, good chance that we push it out another week and maybe he plays against Richmond, of which I will be at that game.
Very nice.
So very excited to be doing something with the great Linda Peachy, who I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing, but I've said yes. So
yeah, for those who don't know, Linda is pretty much the best person at the club. She runs all the coterie groups, cheer squad, past players, and she is a competence machine. We love her, and she also helps make the banners.
I owe her a few things. So basically, no, more so, she's never said no to me, and I have said no to her a couple of times through necessity. But yes, I certainly feel like I'm in the credits column. I've got a few credits that I need to pay off.
Hey, Adam Treloar's just got estimated return test. Do you reckon he could play against the Hawks?
Maybe.
That'd be good.
Because he tweaked his calf again, no?
I think so, yeah. Well, they pulled him out of the game in Darwin, and you said on this pod that's probably because Darwin is the worst place to go if you've got calf issues. So I thought it was preventative, but then he didn't play against the Cats as well, so probably did tweak it.
Yeah, so like with any injury that's soft tissue, if there's a subsequent reoccurrence, you basically add between 25 and 50% on the recovery time to what you would otherwise. So he hasn't had the same injury again, obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't say test. But say it's like actually like usually a 1 weeker, they'd basically be like they'd rule him out for 2 just to be careful because.
Okay. So he's ready now.
Calves in particular can hang around. So yeah, I mean, I'm certainly he'd have to be in the mix, wouldn't he? But again. This is always my thing. Adam is an unbelievable player, so that's really going to help. But with a guy that age, of his style of play and physique, you just want to see him get some continual footy towards the end of the year to give you real optimism about next year in particular. Mm-hmm. Gets a bit dicey with particularly we've caught, and I'm not writing Adam off at all. It's calves or old man injuries is what we used to call them. And we used to call it that for a reason because once people start getting them later on in their career really often is indicative that they're running out of juice, if you will, and their body can't have it anymore. Yeah. However, how would you say, Danny, that you summarise the first half of the year as a fan?
Optimistic is the best word that keeps coming back. The only loss that I feel has had probably the one that, let's just go through them. We beat North, and look, North were an unknown quantity, and we didn't have Treloar, we didn't have Bont. So that was kind of just round one, weird things can happen. So we did that. The Collingwood game, very frustrating, but at the same time, I remember walking out of there very optimistic because everything went against us and we still kept them, they only won by a goal and the umpires. Then the lowest I've felt was probably quarter time against Carlton. Remember they put on 4 goals and I just okay, maybe we're not that good. The Freo game was quite frustrating. Brisbane, we did the live watch-along party, so we saw the horror happening. But then we thumped 3 teams in a row. And then only lost to the Suns by 10 points in conditions they train 8 months of the year in. We train 8 hours of the year in. Smashed the Bombers. Geelong got, Lady Luck got them over the line. Yeah, look, it's weird. If you'd said to me all our injury, if you said to me January 1, Dogs are going to be 6-5 at the bye, I would have been annoyed. If you'd told me just before the Kangas game, we're going to be 6-5, I would have bitten your hand off for it. So overall, I'm feeling pretty good. However, I would just love a bit of luck to go our way.
Yeah, it does feel like so I've made this statement a few times that I don't think there's a single game that we couldn't have won this year. And I think there's reasons for all of those losses that you mentioned. I think, obviously toss of the coin against Collingwood, poor umpiring decisions that really didn't help. Freo, some real young fatigue, missing a few superstars in particular to get us over the line, aka the captain. Losing Harms very early on in the piece against the Lions, but we basically ran out of legs on a sort of relatively condensed period with travel both to Perth and then to Adelaide. Smashed the Saints as we should. Mm-hmm. Smashed the Giants, which was a great result at the time, in particular given the Giants were sort of still being considered one of the sort of better teams and are next to us on the ladder. You've already mentioned a rough summary of the Gold Coast game. Essendon are no good.
Yep.
And we go up against the Cats, who are really, again, somehow a contender. And in the place that's impossible to beat them at, we get a few things from the sound of things that don't go our way. Yes. And we lose by a couple of goals in a game where they really couldn't have played much better than they did. So all that is to say is that at the end of the year, when they count the points and allocate positions in the finals or otherwise, they're not going to give a shit about any of that. But to your point, it does certainly lean itself to a bit of optimism. So I think it's worth casting our eyes ahead. And maybe what we do here, Danny, is we actually just look ahead. And I know that you're the fan, and you're probably going to say we're going to win every game from here, but maybe try and put your analytical hat on wherever, if you can find it, build it.
It's made
order
of
it
Lego.
on Amazon. Not sure if it's big, small, or otherwise. My guess would be it'd be quite a small hat. And let's see if we can run through quickly and see where we end up. And if you've got a pen and pencil there, that'd be great.
I can just go on the ladder predictor if you want.
Nah, let's just do it one by one. This is the one.
I got a pen and pencil. Here we go.
That's what I was trying to say.
All right. What do we? So I'm just adding up all our wins and losses. Okay, here we go. Got them. Win-loss column.
Okay.
All right.
Hawks.
I feel it's a look. Hey, they fire up against us. They beat us last year. However, I feel that there should be a because of all the talk.
I think we beat them.
Yeah, well, all the talk of Bailey last week. We've forgotten that these guys were quite disrespectful in the elimination final last year that was played at their home ground, even though we were higher up. It was an absolute travesty. So I feel there should be a bit of revenge there. Although I did speak to a couple of the players pre the Bombers game, and they said that a lot of the revenge was done in the preseason match against them. But I would love to. If we had to win only one more game for the rest of the year, I choose this one.
Yeah, I think they're really up and down.
Yeah.
And I think we win with a fresh team, hopefully with a couple back.
Yeah.
Saints, I think we smash them.
Surely.
Richmond, likewise.
Yep. Swans, you reckon as well? They're all over the shop?
Swans up there, probably a tighter game than what it should be, just based on playing the SCG, and it tends to be a little bit sticky up there. But I think we win. I think we beat North. And this is where it really gets interesting. So that basically leaves us, let's say our predictions are correct, which of course they will be. That puts us at 11-5 going into round 18 against the Brisbane Lions up there.
Oh, you've missed out on Adelaide.
Round 18, Adelaide here.
Yes. 12th of July, Docklands, not Ballarat. That'll be interesting because they have beaten us the last couple of times. But we have not played them at Marvel. We played them in Ballarat, and there was that very close game, and unluckily, I think it was Caleb just passed it to one of their forwards in the dying seconds from a kick out. But Adelaide can, they can surprise it, and they're very good this year. Should we give that one just as a loss? Just in case, and that could be any of those ones where we just have an off day and they have a great day, and the footy gods frown on us.
Well, I'm probably looking at the two games there. Brisbane up north and Adelaide down here. And I'm probably sitting there thinking that Adelaide have got a couple of seeds of dissent starting to be sowed, with some commentary around Tex Walker and his future, some commentary, I believe, around Rory Sloane and his future.
I thought Sloane already retired.
That's what I thought. Weren't they talking about him the other day?
No, he's on Channel 9.
He's on Channel 9. Who were they talking about the other day that was still playing for them?
No, so yeah,
there was
Sloane's
another
gone.
old player. Unless they went back and showed some previous footage of how they should be treating players that have played a lot of good footy for them.
Could be, yeah. Look, we don't get much Crows coverage here in Victoria, so, and I don't really watch Channel 9.
Yep, I don't see. I know he's been on the television, but I swear I saw a video the other day of Taylor Walker talking about his future, but that might have been an old one.
No, Taylor's still playing.
Yeah, I know Taylor is, but Taylor was
talking
talking
about
and about getting a deal done for him, which surprised me greatly. But having said that, I haven't seen any of Adelaide play except them just beat Richmond, if I'm not mistaken, when I was overseas.
They lost to Collingwood. They've been losing the big games.
Collingwood game. I watched them play against Collingwood, just lose against Collingwood.
There we go.
So now that we've gone through the maze of incorrect information that I just had in my head, my sense is that they might be one that we can pinch. I think that's by that stage. Ideally, we've got some really strong momentum coming off the back of some, let's say, lesser sides, which is always a risky thing to say.
You got 6 in a row there. And that's unheard of for us under Luke Beveridge.
Yeah, well, I have concerns about the Brisbane game. Is my other thinking. Like, I don't think we're going to get the Brisbane game up there they're surely going to find their form line a bit better than they have been in the last few weeks.
Yep.
It's in their home ground. It'll be the biggest shift from a Melbourne middle of winter, miserable as all hell, straight up to Brisbane, slippery. Could be hot, could be relatively warm. Who knows?
It's July, so it should be closest to a Melbourne summer.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we have Essendon. That should be another win. Then we got Giants at home. Surely we win that. Then Demons.
You know what's shaping as a massive game, as based on the current form lines, is that Melbourne game later in the year.
Okay. All right.
Because they've started to hit their straps. I think they've won, if I'm not mistaken, again. They've won a few on the trot. What have they got? Melbourne have got...
They were 0-5, and now they are...
4 of the last 5, and they only lost to the Hawks in quite a dismal day at the MCG.
Yes.
So they've got St Kilda coming up. You'd think that they should start to progress towards the 8. So this might very well be one of the games of the year. For us, anyway.
And it's at their home ground, which we have not beaten them at since 2021. So it's look, we need to put more in the loss column here. We can go all pie in the sky and say we'll win every game, but we need just a couple more in there. So let's just put.
Yeah, I think between Adelaide, Brisbane, Giants, Melbourne, and Freo, we probably, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we probably either lose 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to put and then we win the rest of the games. So that's
West Coast.
That's 9 wins, 3 losses for the remaining 12 games. Is it 12?
Yeah, which puts us at 15. 15 wins for the year gets us obviously in the 8. I'm not sure if it gets us guaranteed top 4, but it should be very close.
You'd hope.
So top 4 last year was 17 wins, 16, 15, 15.
And it's a much more even competition this year.
Correct.
So, yeah, that should get us top 4. But the other thing is, everyone talks about top 4. I don't care if we don't get top 4. We won the flag from 7th. We got to the grand final from 5th. So that's nothing for me. I don't know how we'd go with a week off, but we traditionally don't play that well after the bye. So don't panic if we don't get top 4, is what I'm saying.
And I think maybe as a great segue into the Patreon episode, Danny, which we'll obviously record very quickly after we wrap this one up,
this is quite exciting.
One of the great unknowns is the momentum built around coaching changes when clubs sack their coach, bring someone in. The record that these clubs have is absolutely phenomenal, considering that those teams are going terribly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the inverse can be true as well. So in the Patreon, we'll talk through, obviously, the Bevo re-signing, all of the details that we have surrounding that, and, essentially what I think will happen from here after all of the commentary of it during the week.
Yeah, so this is quite exciting. You're going to get into the footy nitty-gritty of what you reckon the contract should be and whatnot. Speculation, which we don't often do here, but you want it more from Boydie than from me. I mean, I say give him $1 billion a year and give him all of Spotswood, whatever keeps him there. But so Boydie will put his analytical hat on. Who would you love to beat in the finals, Boydie? If we got top 4, just who would you like to knock off in a qualifier, prelim, and then a granny?
So I'll base it on the current 8 because I'm thinking more of the path to glory, as you were saying. So I say we finish top 4 and we lose to Collingwood in the opening round. We finish 4th, Collingwood finish 1st.
What? You want us to lose a final?
The first semi we lose.
So we then come the qualifying final.
And then we play the Giants in an elimination or the semi or whatever they call
it. That's the semi, yes.
And we smash them.
Okay.
Then and this is all magical, then we play Geelong in the prelim.
Oh.
And we beat them.
That would be huge.
And then Collingwood make it. and we beat Collingwood in the grand final.
All right, let me pull up the pony there, little chicken. I know you hate.
Hey, you ask who I want. That's who I want.
I can't believe you want to lose to Collingwood in a final. This is outrageous. And also,
can you imagine those Peacocks beating us in a qualifier, and the 95,000 of them trying to get tickets for the grand final, only to lose to the team who they were adamant they thought they were going to beat, who they beat in the qualifier? That would be unbelievably unsafe place to be.
Yep.
But also fantastic for footy.
I would. I don't know if I could survive that grand final week with confident Collingwood people all around me.
Mate, you could. Tell you how.
Yeah.
You just think about the week after. You can't tell me that's not a good suggestion. We beat all the people we want to beat. We beat Geelong after all of the shit we've dealt with for them. The Giants is a very sort of, it's just the Tom Boyd Cup that I'm trying to refer to again and again and again.
Yeah.
And we beat Collingwood, which is, to be honest, like there's nothing better than being a significant part of the history of the Collywobbles would be my suggestion.
I do love beating Geelong in a prelim. That would be spectacularly. That would just be so beautiful because we've lost so many finals to them. I think we're 8-0 in finals against them, so that would be ridiculously wonderful. I can't get on board the losing to Collingwood first. I think I'd rather beat them in the qualifier. We've already got the Tom Boyd Cup, so we'll just play Geelong, and then I'm happy to beat Collingwood again, but that means they make a grand final. I wouldn't mind Gold Coast making the grand final, just so there'd be heaps of tickets, and all the Bulldog faithful would get to see us win a flag. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
Anyway,
no clubs are making it of that kind. I don't like empty grand finals. I like
it won't be empty. It'll be full. It's a grand final. People go.
Corporates, mate. It'll be full of.
They're your people. Think of how many cashies you could do that day, Boydie. Think of the envelopes.
The more the Bulldogs make the finals, the better it is for me. Yes, absolutely. Yes. It is mutually aligned. So very much so. Anyway, we're going to talk through the Bevo re-signing on the Patreon. Have a great week off. We'll definitely do another episode next week to ensure that we get ourselves amped up for what shapes to be the biggest of the next 5 games, I would say.
All right, we're slipping behind the paywall. Go Dogs.
I gave my childhood to that roar of the red, white, and blue sea, and the knowledge that you had to love the Bulldog boys and me. 20 years on, I feel that longing hanging in September air. But the reason I go every week is to pretend you're still there. And they will find the glory one day, and I will throw it at your feet. It's a long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets. Long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets.